The alarms at Outpost Theta 9 blared through the control room, shaking the crew from their routine work. Red warning lights flashed across every console, signaling an emergency unlike any they had seen before. Lieutenant Sarah Reynolds, stationed at the sensor grid, felt a chill run down her spine as she analyzed the incoming data. A ship, massive and completely unregistered, had just appeared at the very edge of human-controlled space. It had no transponder codes, no identification, and no known markings. The strangest part was how it entered their territory. There was no jump signature, no warp trail, nothing. It was as if it had simply materialized out of the void. Commander James Carter strode into the control room, his face tense. "Report," he barked, eyes scanning the holographic display. The unknown warship hovered near the border, motionless, as if observing them. It was sleek, black as the void, and completely unlike anything in the Terran database. No visible weapon ports, no heat signatures, no signal transmissions. It was a ghost. "No response to hails," Sarah said, her voice laced with unease. "It's just there." James narrowed his eyes. He had served in the Terran Navy for over 2 decades, had seen alien threats, rogue pirates, and battle-hardened fleets. But this was different. It was the silence that unsettled him the most. Usually, when an unknown ship entered human space, it would try to communicate or make demands. But this vessel just sat there, waiting. "Get me Fleet Command," James ordered, his gut telling him this was far from an ordinary incursion. Within moments, Admiral Walker's face appeared on the screen. The old war veteran looked unimpressed at first, but as James relayed the situation, his expression darkened. "That ship is not one of ours, nor any registered alien vessel," Walker said gravely. "You have authorization to engage if it makes any hostile moves. Until then, observe and report." James acknowledged the order and turned back to his crew. "Deploy a recon drone. I want visuals up close." The small probe launched into space, approaching the mysterious ship with caution. As the live feed came through, the control room fell silent. The warship's hull was smooth and seamless, lacking any traditional construction lines. It was as if the ship was grown rather than built. Strange, glowing patterns flickered across its surface, moving in complex sequences. As the drone closed in, something happened that sent a fresh wave of alarm through the crew. The ship reacted. Without warning, it shifted, moving at an impossible speed. In less than a second, it had repositioned itself directly in front of the drone. Gasps filled the control room. "That's impossible," Sarah whispered. "Nothing moves that fast, not without breaking the laws of physics." Before anyone could react, the drone's feed cut to static. It was gone. No explosion, no impact, just vanished. James clenched his jaw. "Recall the patrol fleet. I want every ship within range to form a defensive line. If that thing tries to enter deeper into our territory, we stop it." But the ship was one step ahead. Even as the orders were being relayed, the warship vanished. Not through conventional means. One moment, it was there. The next, it simply ceased to exist. The room was filled with stunned silence. Then, an alert blared. "Sir," Sarah shouted, her hands flying across the controls. It reappeared. "But it's not at the border anymore." James turned back to the display, and his blood ran cold. The warship was no longer at the edge of human space. It had jumped, without any detectable technology, directly into orbit above Mars. How the hell did it do that? Someone muttered. James didn't have an answer. All he knew was that this was no ordinary vessel. It wasn't just an unknown ship. It was an unknown threat. "Get me Fleet Command again," he said, his voice steel. "Now." 2 seconds. The warship loomed over Mars like a silent predator, its dark, seamless hull reflecting the weak light of the sun. Every orbital defense system locked onto it, ready to fire at the slightest provocation. But still, it did nothing. No signals, No transmissions. No visible activity. It just hung there, watching. On Earth, the Terran High Command was in chaos. Every major fleet commander and intelligence officer had been summoned into an emergency meeting. The existence of this unknown warship had thrown all established protocols into question. It moved in ways that defied known physics. It appeared and disappeared without a trace. And now, it had placed itself directly above one of humanity's most important colonies. Commander James Carter stood in the war room, staring at the live feed of the alien vessel. "It's not acting like an invading force," he muttered, "but it's also not trying to communicate. So what the hell does it want?" Admiral Walker exhaled sharply. "That's what we need to find out. The fact that it hasn't attacked yet means we still have time. But if that thing makes a move against Mars, we won't hesitate to blow it out of the sky." Carter knew that was easier said than done. The ship had already demonstrated abilities that made it far beyond human technology. Could their weapons even damage it? A new transmission came through. "Sir, we're receiving reports from Mars Orbital Station. They detected a brief energy fluctuation from the warship, but it's unexplainable." "Unexplainable how?" Carter asked. The technician hesitated. It wasn't an energy surge in the traditional sense. It was biological, almost like a pulse. That made no sense. A warship was metal, circuits, and weapons, not something that pulsed like a living thing. Carter exchanged a glance with Admiral Walker. "We need to get a closer look. If it's not making demands, we need to find out why it's here." Within the hour, a Terran strike team was assembled. Equipped with the best armor and weapons humanity had to offer, they prepared for the unknown. The plan was simple: take a stealth shuttle, approach the warship, and attempt a boarding operation. Carter volunteered to lead the team. "If this ship is a threat, I want to be the first to know," he said firmly. The shuttle launched, moving carefully toward the alien vessel. As they approached, the sheer size of the ship became overwhelming. It was bigger than anything the Terran fleet had ever built. But even more unsettling was its silence. No lights, no visible thrusters, just a massive, floating enigma. When they reached the hull, Carter hesitated. "There's no obvious entry point," one of the soldiers noted. "No airlocks, no docking ports." Before they could decide on their next move, the ship reacted. The smooth black surface of the hull opened. It didn't move like metal. It shifted like flesh, peeling back to reveal a dark interior. The invitation was clear. "That's not normal," one soldier whispered. Carter took a deep breath. "Stay sharp. We go in, we gather intel, and we get out. No unnecessary risks." As they stepped inside, the hull closed behind them, sealing them in. And in the suffocating darkness, something whispered. The whisper was not a sound in the traditional sense. It did not echo through the air or register on their communication systems. Instead, it crept directly into their minds. Cold, distant, and ancient. The entire strike team froze as the unnatural sensation washed over them. "Did you hear that?" One of the soldiers, Lieutenant Vasquez, muttered, gripping his rifle tighter. Carter swallowed hard. He had been in countless battlefields, faced horrors both human and alien. But this was different. This wasn't a battle. It was something else entirely. "I heard it," Carter said, voice firm. "Stay focused. Keep moving." The interior of the warship was unlike anything they had expected. The walls pulsed with an eerie glow, as if responding to their presence. It wasn't metal, at least not in the way human ships were built. The material had an organic sheen, shifting slightly as they passed. "Feels like we're walking inside a living thing," Vasquez muttered. "No unnecessary comments," Carter ordered. "Eyes up." They advanced cautiously through the dim corridors, weapons raised. There were no control panels, no displays, no crew. It was as if the ship had been abandoned. But then, why was it still functional? They reached what looked like the bridge, though it bore no resemblance to any known command center. The room was vast, a domed chamber filled with floating symbols that glowed faintly in the dark. The symbols shifted and rearranged themselves as if reacting to their presence. And then they saw them. The bodies. Dozens of them, slumped in the far end of the chamber. Alien corpses. Their skeletal frames were twisted, their faces frozen in expressions of agony. But what horrified Carter the most were their eyes, or what remained of them. Blackened sockets stared back at them, as if something had burned the life out of them in an instant. What the hell happened to them? One of the soldiers whispered. Carter moved forward cautiously, scanning the remains. The aliens were humanoid, but their bodies were elongated, their limbs slightly too thin, their skin a pale grayish blue. Their uniforms suggested they had been part of an advanced civilization. This wasn't a battle, Vasquez muttered. No wounds, no weapons, they just died. Carter knelt beside one of the bodies, his fingers brushing against a data tablet clutched in the dead alien's hand. As soon as he touched it, the device activated, its cracked screen flickering to life. Symbols flashed, rapidly translating into Terran Standard language. One phrase stood out. "We were wrong to awaken it." The whisper returned, but this time it was louder, more distinct, and it came from every direction. "You are unworthy." The walls pulsed violently. The chamber shook. A deep guttural groan reverberated through the ship, like something vast was awakening from slumber. Then the ship moved. No engines, no thrusters, but they could feel it accelerating. "Command, we have a problem." Carter barked into his comms. "The ship is moving. Repeat, it's moving on its own." Admiral Walker's voice came through, laced with urgency. "Carter, get out of there. That thing just changed its trajectory. It's heading straight for Earth." The whispers became a roar, filling their minds with an overwhelming presence. The floating symbols twisted and pulsed with an unnatural energy. The dead alien crew had left behind only a single warning. And now it was too late. "You said." The ship moved with impossible speed, its sleek black hull cutting through space like a phantom. No visible propulsion, no inertia. It simply was, a force of nature that defied logic. Inside, Carter and his team fought to maintain balance as the ship shifted around them. The very walls pulsed, responding to their presence like they were inside something alive. "Status," Carter barked, gripping the nearest surface for stability. Vasquez checked his wrist display, his face pale. "It's accelerating. Fast. We'll reach Earth's orbit in under 10 minutes. That wasn't possible. Even the most advanced human warships would take hours to make such a journey. Yet here they were, trapped, aboard a vessel that ignored every known law of physics. The whispers were getting louder now. No longer faint, distant murmurs. They were inside their heads, threading through their thoughts like fingers probing their minds. "Unworthy. Unclean. You were not meant to be here." Carter clenched his jaw. "We need an exit. Now." He motioned toward the entry point where they had first stepped aboard. But as they turned, their hearts dropped. The passage was gone. The smooth black walls had sealed shut, trapping them inside. "No, no, no," one of the soldiers muttered, pounding against the surface. It didn't feel like metal. It felt like flesh, cold, unyielding, pulsing beneath their fingers. Then the first scream rang out. Carter spun around just in time to see one of his men, Private Doran, collapse to his knees, clutching his head. His eyes went wide with horror, then black, as if the light had been drained from them. His body convulsed violently, then stilled. Silence. The team stood frozen, staring at their fallen comrade. Then Vasquez took a cautious step forward. "Doran?" Doran's body twitched. Then, in a motion too fast to follow, his head snapped up. His eyes were empty voids. His mouth opened, and from within, the whisper came again. But this time, it spoke through him. "It does not belong to you. It was never yours to awaken." Then, before their eyes, Doran's body melted, his flesh dissolving into black, inky tendrils that sank into the floor. Within seconds, he was gone. The team stumbled back, weapons raised. But there was nothing to shoot, nothing to fight. Carter's breathing was heavy. Whatever this ship is, it's not just a machine. It's something else. Vasquez swallowed hard, and it's taking us straight to Earth. A new alarm blared through their comms. Admiral Walker's voice was sharp with urgency. Carter, we just lost visual on the ship. It's gone from every scanner, but we know it's still coming. We need you to. The signal cut. A cold realization settled over them. The ship wasn't just traveling to Earth. It was hiding from the universe while it did. And whatever was inside was waking up. You said. The whispers became a storm. No longer distant, no longer a mere presence in the back of their minds. They were inside them now. Carter clenched his jaw as his vision blurred, his thoughts clouded by voices not his own. You are insects, crawling toward a flame you do not understand. He shook his head, forcing himself to focus. We need to get out of here. Now. Vasquez barely looked conscious. His hands trembled around his rifle, sweat dripping down his face. Carter, I don't think we can. It's in our heads. It knows we're here. The ship lurched again, faster than before. A hollow guttural groan rippled through the walls, vibrating in their bones. The air itself felt thicker, pressing down on them. Then, sudden silence. The pulsing walls, the floating symbols, the deep thrumming that had filled the warship, all of it stopped. And before them, the darkness peeled open. A doorway, not back to their shuttle, not to anywhere they recognized, but beyond it was a vast, endless chamber, a place that felt impossibly large, stretching into the void itself. Something moved inside. Something old. Something waiting. Carter knew instinctively that they were not meant to see it. That humanity, all of humanity, was never supposed to look upon what lay beyond that door. Yet the ship had brought them here. To witness. To understand. A shape emerged, not a creature, not a machine. Something in between. A vast, shifting mass of darkness, its surface rippling like liquid metal, its form constantly twisting, as if reality itself couldn't decide what it was supposed to be. Then it spoke, not in words, but in raw meaning, pressed directly into their minds. We were sealed away, long before your kind crawled from the dirt. The whispers from before had been nothing compared to this. This was a presence, a force, something vast and ancient, something that had been watching long before humanity ever touched the stars. Your people built their empires atop the ruins of what came before. And now, you have opened the door. Carter felt the words in his very soul, a weight that pressed down on him with the force of a dying star. We do not hate you. We do not fear you. But you will not survive us. Then, for the first time since they had stepped aboard, the warship moved them. Not through corridors, not through doors, through reality itself. The walls around them ripped open, and in the next instant, they were back. The strike team collapsed onto the floor of their shuttle, gasping, trembling. The warship was gone, vanished without a trace. But Earth's defense grid was already on high alert. Every major fleet had mobilized, weapons primed, waiting for an enemy that no longer existed. Carter's comlink crackled to life. Admiral Walker's voice came through, shaken. Carter, what the hell happened? One moment, your shuttle was inside the enemy ship. Then suddenly, you were drifting alone in space. The ship is gone. Carter sat up, breathing hard. Admiral, we were wrong. He swallowed, looking at his team. They had all heard it. They had all felt it. The ship wasn't invading us, Carter whispered. It was warning us.